Hi, everyone. So welcome back to our Youth Advocacy Month Fireside Chats. And we are so excited to have Chris Klug with us here today. So Chris, if you could just introduce yourself, that would be awesome.
Hi, Divya. Thanks a lot for having a conversation with me this morning. My name is Chris Klug, and I am an almost 21-year liver transplant recipient and an Olympic medalist and 3-time Olympian. And happy to be here and chatting with you guys this morning.
Thank you so much for being here. To our audience, thank you so much for watching us today, whatever platform you're watching us on. We're really excited to bring you some really cool content through our Fireside Chat series. So really just to get started, you said you've been almost 21 years since your liver transplant. What really inspired you to start the foundation, go above and beyond? Being a transplant recipient must be really hard in and of itself. How did that really happen and take place?
Yeah, sure. Great question. Thank you. I was on a transplant waiting list for almost 6 years, and I've had my fair share of orthopedic injuries and setbacks in a 20-year World Cup snowboarding career. And typically when you break a collarbone at the X Games or you blow your knee out in a gymnastics accident, you get an X-ray or an MRI and you do whatever's necessary, you diagnose it, and you begin your road to recovery. And as we know, when you're on a transplant waiting list, you're really, your life is put on hold and you're hoping and praying for that second chance. It's a very precarious place to be. And so as I got towards the final months of being on the transplant waiting list at a more critical stage, with my health really deteriorating week by week, I just made a commitment to myself, to my family, as a part of my faith. I said, hey, if I get through this, I'm gonna do whatever I can to give back and help others. And so I really, for a few years after my life-saving liver transplant, July 28th, 2000, I volunteered for all sorts of different organizations and just pretty much said yes to any opportunity to spread the message of organ donation and help inspire those that were going through the same thing that I was. And then around 2003-ish, right after the 2002 Olympics, where I won my bronze medal, I realized that, I had this great podium to speak from, and I kind of wanted to do it a little bit differently, really spread that message of organ donation in a fun and entertaining way, because let's face it, it's a tough question to face for all of us. We don't really want to talk about our own mortality, and sometimes it's awkward. You go up to a stranger or even to a friend and say, hey, what are you going to do with your organs if you're no longer here? It's a sort of a strange question to broach. And so we sort of use this vehicle of action sports and our passion for snowboarding, surfing, skateboarding, wakeboarding, all board sports, and said, these are really cool activities, and this is something else that's very cool that we're passionate about and want to share with you. And so we just started going to Vans Warped Tour events, to X Games, to biking and cycling events, and just had a very informal, pardon me, just had a very informal conversation and totally volunteer. And that sort of became more formalized, and we hired somebody part-time and then eventually full-time. And now our foundation has been around for almost 18 years, and really proud of the work we're doing. And all of my involvement is strictly volunteer. And we have a great board and a great team of volunteers that are doing a lot of important work out there.
It's so relatable. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Divya, you're about to say the same thing. Like, it's so relatable to hear, how do you approach that question with someone? Like, how do you tell someone who's, 14 years old, like, hey, what happens when you die and what do you do with your organs? Like, that's a really tough question to approach. Where is this gap in knowledge? Everyone seems to know about a lot of other big causes that are out there, which is amazing. Where do you think that bridging gap with this knowledge is? And what do you think might be a possible solution to helping our young viewers here get the idea of what is organ donation and why it's so critical and so important?
Sure, I think people are inherently good and they want to help others. And we know from past surveys and analyses with DLA, Donate Life America, that something like virtually everybody, 96+%, almost everybody says they support organ donation. And if I'm no longer here, why wouldn't I recycle myself and help somebody else out? However, we know that that percentage is, 50, 60, 65%. I think we're in that realm here in Colorado that actually take the steps to document that decision. So I think conceptually, most people want to help others and they're in support of organ donation, but many times don't check the box at the DMV. They don't go on to donatelifecolorado.org or their respective state or chrisklugfoundation.org and go through the process of actually documenting that decision. So I don't think it's a question of yes or no. It's more of, hey, can you take a few minutes to register as an organ donor? Let your wishes be known on your iPhone. Let your wishes be known in your state registries. Have the conversation with your family. There's so many different ways to share that donation decision, and we just need to continue to encourage that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that's what the whole point of what we're all doing together is. We're banding together to try to make the biggest impact that we can and really bridge that gap in the knowledge. Something that I wanted to talk about is a lot of us advocate and believe in a lot of different things, but very few people have the ability to take a stand, take a platform and speak about it openly like you're doing, which is so awesome. So I would love for you to kind of tell us about how you really became an advocate and how advocacy impacted your life and what you're doing and what you've really learned from it throughout the way.
Yeah, Divya, I guess for me, it was that commitment of being on a waiting list and really boils down to having a personal experience with organ donation. And I guess being on death's doorstep one day and getting a new lease on life the next. And I know it sounds cliche, but it gives you a heck of a perspective. It makes you truly realize what's important in life, your friends, your family, your faith, your quality of life. And so for me, selfishly, I love racing my bike at the Leadville 100 and racing my skis in events like the Power of Four and the Grand Traverse and running the New York City Marathon, even though I'm, not exactly a marathon runner. But I love all these activities, whether it's cycling or kiteboarding or snowboarding or mountaineering. Selfishly, those have always been passions for me. But what a great way to also not only share that message of organ donation, but to show those that are maybe going through the same thing I did, whether it's transplant related or not. Maybe they're not on a waiting list. Maybe they're facing cancer. Maybe they're facing some other medical adversity or challenge. And I'm standing on top of the Maroon Bells, two of the famous 14ers here in the Elk Mountains near my home in Aspen, Colorado. And it's fun to be able to share, hey, I can do anything after my transplant. There's nothing I can't do, and I'm way healthier, I'm way stronger than I ever was before my transplant. And hopefully that gives others hope in whatever challenges they're facing, whether it's medical or emotional, or certainly the past year or so with COVID, we've all had to face some real challenges and pivot in our own ways with our families and our friends and our lives. We've all experienced adversity the last year. And so, yeah, selfishly, I love pursuing all of these activities that I'm passionate about, but it's also a great way for me to share something that's very important to me. And also not just honoring my organ donor, but also helping those, like I said, that are going through the same thing I did, and being able to let them know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. You can bounce back from a major medical setback, in my case, a liver transplant, and pursue your dreams and accomplish just about anything. And that was the neatest thing about my bronze medal is, yeah, I won that a year and a half after my transplant. And for me, it was a dream come true. But it also helped show, so many young people that when they're faced with the prospect of an organ transplant, when I was told that, I thought it was a death wish. And then I thought, well, okay, you can survive it, but your quality of life is going to suck. And that's just not the case. Like I said, there's nothing I can't do today, and I'm way healthier and stronger than I was before my transplant. So I love sharing those messages in everything that I do.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And so great to hear that you're still able to do everything that you love while also promoting this message. That's what we love to hear. That's awesome.
It's definitely Oh, sorry. Yeah,
No, go
it's
ahead.
definitely
Go
it's
ahead.
definitely really inspiring. I mean, to see like these kinds of stories and play out. But like I think we had talked about before, Chris, like how it's really cool that those who do get a transplant get to experience these amazing like opportunities, this true second chance at life. And it's just so devastating that there's so many people who don't ever get a chance to do that, who don't ever get the opportunity to have that second chance in life because they never get that transplant, or they never are able to get the treatment they need medically or whatever that may be. And so it's really great that you turned your story into a mission, into a platform for advocacy, because we need more organ donors. I think something you mentioned that really stuck out to me was how quickly someone can register to be an organ donor. Actually, we here at ODAC are launching something called the Under a Minute Challenge, because we don't think there's too many things you can do in under a minute, but you can register to be an organ donor that quickly. So definitely we see like how cool that can be, how quickly it can be done, like you said, on your phone.
That's a great thing. I love that. And
Yeah.
you're so right. Just to add real quickly that, the impact that we can have, even if we're no longer here, is so significant, and what a legacy that we leave behind. My organ donor saved myself and 3 other lives. And as we all know, that an organ donor can save as many as 8 lives and improve as many as 75 or 100 lives through cornea, tissue, different forms of donation. So what a legacy we can leave behind, even if we're no longer here. And I always joke, you can't take it with you, so might as well help somebody else out.
That's very true. Yeah, I mean, at that point, really, as you said, your donor saved 4 lives. We've spoken to people who have had the opportunity to meet their donor families, and they've been able to save countless lives, or at least, like you said, improve, up to 100 lives. That's insane that one person can have that widespread of an impact. So you also work with a program called Donor Dudes. Can you tell us more about that program, what the inspiration was, kind of going down that line?
Yeah, you bet. That's sort of our youth initiative and our campus awareness and outreach programming. And it's not exclusive to dudes, it's dudes and dudettes, of course. But like we said, it's sometimes a very a scary and daunting conversation to have. And so we kind of have fun with it and sort of joke donor dudes and dudettes is a great door opener to having that conversation. And it is not the coolest conversation to have, like, hey, what do you want to happen if you're no longer here? But what a great icebreaker with the dudes and dudettes conversation to educate young people about the need. And like you said, in just under a minute, you can register the 1 minute challenge. I love that. And it's just a kind of a fun program geared towards high school, college age kids on campuses all across the country. And we've done a lot of neat events at junior high schools and colleges all over our country, promoting organ donation in fun ways. And we do a lot of Donor Dudes game night events where we send out lime green socks, the official color of organ donation, and you'll have an entire football team or volleyball team or basketball team in lime green socks. And again, the opposing team might show up and say, why are these guys in lime green socks? What's this all about? And again, it prompts that conversation. And next thing you know, maybe 2 football players or 2 basketball players or whatever on the bus home are saying, well, what'd you think about that lime green sock deal? And are you an organ donor? Have you talked to your family about it? And we don't always know the impact of these events or these activities and this outreach that we do. But ultimately, the goal is to promote that conversation, encourage anyone that we come in contact with to have that conversation with their family, and ultimately, hopefully they do the 1 minute or less challenge and document that decision.
Yeah, no, I love everything that you're doing there, because like you kind of said, organ donation isn't like a dinner table topic. It's not something that people want to talk about. So finding fun ways to make it engaging and start that conversation. And, sometimes you can't measure it quantifiably, but even starting those conversations which lead to further discussions, which, rope in other people, that's awesome. And I'd love to hear how you think how you think people that have been involved in Donor Dudes and Dudettes have really learned from that experience. What have your high school representatives taken from being part of this?
I think it's been a great way for, oftentimes high school students might do it to check the box on some required, volunteer community involvement. And then they get involved with it. And maybe, what's amazing in the last, for me, 25 plus years of being a transplant recipient or a transplant candidate, the people that you meet, just about everybody has a connection to organ donation or donation in some way. Maybe it's a donated ligament in their knee. Maybe it's a brother's, friend. Maybe it's a cousin, some family member. But almost everybody has some kind of connection to organ donation. So I guess what I've learned is that, number one, I think people really want to help. And once they get over that hurdle of this being so scary and they learn about it, then they're not afraid to have that conversation. And I think the other thing is just I've met so many wonderful people within the transplant community and through all of our activities at all of our events the last 17, 18 years. And it's a very, very special group of people. We talked about some of the transplant surgeons and some of the friends I've met in the medical community, and they're very special people too. And they're helping save lives every day and enhance lives. And for me, my mantra today is enjoy the ride, don't take a single turn for granted. And that's another thing, like I said earlier, it just gave me such an amazing perspective that every day is a gift. And I just feel so privileged to have gotten that second chance and to be able to give back and hopefully help the nearly 110,000 people today waiting for the same thing that I was 21 plus years ago. And I'll tell you, as scary as it was, there were times when I thought I was going to die. And I remember just hoping and praying for that call and wondering if I was going to be one of the, nearly 21 people that die every single day waiting today. And as scary as it was, I wouldn't trade it in for anything. Again, it gave me the perspective I have today. And as scary as it was an awesome experience. And I really, really loved it. There were obviously plenty of bumps in the road and challenges, but looking back on it now with the perspective of 20 plus years later, it's been an amazing gift, an amazing ride, and I'm not done yet.
We love to hear that. And you talked about like all the little things that really can add up to make a big difference. One big thing was how, it's not a conversation that young people tend to have because, when
they're immortal.
Yeah, you're immortal, right? I mean, I feel like I'm immortal. So. And it's a really tough conversation to have because how could you make a decision at 16 to register to be an organ donor when that may not take place for another 50, 60, 70 plus years to go in your life? I guess, how do you get that going? How do you get people to understand, like, you're not taking a decision that's going to, like, have you, come to terms with your mortality today. It's just, a decision that you can take and it just sits there for a really long time. And those are really some of the tough things to talk about. How do you approach those conversations? How do you kind of break the ice there? And what do you have to say for all the young people watching now about organ donation? Like, should they register? Like, what do you think about, having these conversations with their parents, so on?
Heck yeah, it's such an easy conversation to have. It may be a little awkward to initiate that conversation, but it's so important to have it. And I think the reason is have it at the dinner table with those that you care the most about. I always say the worst place to have this conversation for the first time, God forbid, would be in the ER. And I think that's when people say no is some stranger who's a trained professional organ donation liaison. They come and speak to the family and they say, well, your loved one isn't going to make it, and would you consider organ donation? And oftentimes that's such an affront to families because even though they're doing it so beautifully and delicately, it's such an affront to somebody that's undergoing that tragedy. That's the last place in the world you want to have that conversation. Make it automatic and say, you know what? If I'm no longer have any brain activity and I'm no longer here, help somebody else out. And the other thing I just wanted to add, Shirig, on your question is, that my generation, Gen X and Gen Y and Gen Z, my kids it's the me culture to some degree. We're very immersed in our social media, in our activities, in our lives. But I've really seen otherwise with organ donation. I've seen, I think that young people today really do want to help others, and they're giving and philanthropic. And I think if we just get everyone to have this conversation with their family and their loved ones, that oftentimes they'll say, yes, I do want to help somebody else out if I'm no longer here. Like I said, you can't take it with you, so might as well help somebody else out.
Yeah, that's so right. And I think when it comes down to it, everyone wants to help. They just don't know how to get started.
Yeah.
So I guess kind of to wrap up and to kind of bring it full circle, how has being an advocate changed your life? And kind of even more so, do you have any advice to young people that want to advocate for a cause but just don't know how to get started or how to put themselves out there?
Well, I would say it feels so good to get involved and to help others. And there's so many incredible people in the transplant community and others that are volunteering like yourselves. You guys are doing such great work, and it's so rewarding to get involved and to do something to help other people, especially today. There's so many folks that have endured enormous challenges the last year. And what an incredible way to help others by advocating for organ donation and saying yes to organ donation. I'm here today because of it, and I'll tell you, it was a miracle. I think the other thing that's really important, just on Shirig's question earlier, is why would somebody sort of be reluctant to do it? I think it's important to really learn about the myths and misconceptions. There's a lot of Hollywood misconceptions out there. And, medical teams are doing everything they can to save somebody. And in fact, they have to effectively keep somebody alive in order to be eligible for organ donation. So, the Hollywood misconception that they may not fight to keep you alive in order for you to be an organ donor, that just doesn't make any sense. And so I would say really learn the facts about organ donation. And that's something that we've really done with our foundation. And I would encourage everybody, one of the neat things about our foundation is we're not trying to step on anybody's toes. We love partnering with you guys and with anyone that wants to help make a difference. And frankly, I hope we're out of business at someday. I hope that everyone that needs a transplant can get one, and everyone that's waiting on the list today can get one. And you don't need Chris Klug Foundation anymore. But we know right now that's not the case, and the need is great. So again, I encourage everybody, have that conversation and say yes to organ and tissue donation. I'm here today because of it, and so grateful. It's the most selfless and heroic thing I think somebody can do. And I think organ donors are the real gold medalists.
That's incredible. It's actually really funny. The other day, someone asked me, where do I see ODAC in the next 80, 100 years? Where do I see this going? And I was like, I hope it doesn't exist anymore. I hope that no one needs to work on this anymore, if I'm being honest about it, because I started this so that enough people can get that education and, learn about organ donation, and everyone can get the transplant that they deserve, that second chance at life. So it's really funny that you bring that up. And, we love working with all of our different partners and groups. We really enjoyed talking to you today. Your journey and story is really inspiring, just as an Olympic medalist. And then you did that all while also going through an incredible transplant battle, and still staying strong, like you said, stronger than ever before. Very inspirational. Thank you so much for taking the time, being here with us all the way from Colorado. We're over here in New York. So to all the New Yorkers out there, please register to be a donor. We don't want New York to still be ranked 50th out of the 50 states in percentage of organ donors that are registered. Yes, to all of our young viewers, everyone who's our age, Divya and I are both just 21 years old. You can really make a difference. Look at Chris over here. He's done some incredible things. Please register to be a donor, but you can really make a difference no matter what you advocate for, and we're here to support you through that.
Divya, Shirig, you guys are awesome. I love what you're doing. Keep up the good work, and hopefully we'll be back this fall running the New York City Marathon, and we can meet in person and hopefully enjoy New York, coming back to the city that we all love.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time. And do you have any final words for all the young people out here watching today?
Well, as I shared with you earlier, I let you in on a little secret. My mantra is enjoy the ride, don't take a single turn for granted. And I'll share with you just in conclusion, I've been a part of two great races in my life. The race for a second chance at life and literally the race for my life, and racing my snowboard all over the world for nearly 25 years. And one thing that I really learned is none of us succeed alone. And I'll tell you, you don't win an Olympic medal without a great team. You don't get through a life-saving organ transplant without a great team. And someone that says yes to, in my case, a complete stranger and three others. And that's why I'm here today. So we need one another, and none of us can get through this alone. So thanks everybody for tuning in and for hearing me out.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris, for taking the time. We really appreciate it. And everyone watching, make sure to check out the Chris Klug Foundation. We'll have all the socials linked below. And thank you so much again.
Yeah, and
thanks, Sherry.
Some amazing content coming up as well. Stay tuned on our Instagram and all our social media pages for more under a minute challenge videos, as well as other amazing groups like the Chris Klug Foundation being featured, as well as the Chris Klug Foundation, of course. So thank you, everyone. And of course, a special thank you to Chris.